Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. Today my guest is Parag, Jagdale, co-founder and CEO of Unific. When we last spoke in 2023, Unific was primarily known as a HubSpot Shopify integration tool. Since then, the company has undergone quite some changes. Their CPQ solution, Quotific, has grown to serve more customers and is transitioning from a HubSpot add-on to a standalone CPQ platform that supports also Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. Parag has been leading Unific since 2013 from Akron, Ohio, and is here to talk about the future of agentic commerce and B2B quoting. Very excited to have him back. Welcome back to the CPQ podcast, Parag.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for the opportunity.
Then I say, let's go ahead and let's start with telling me what has changed at Unific Quotific since we last talked in 2023.
Yeah, so with Quotific, we've gotten deeper. So in Shopify, they've have company price lists and inventory, all of that. And so we've integrated more deeply with that. And so now with Quotific, you can quote using price lists and inventory locations. So it's been an ask from our customers for a long time, and it was an obstacle to get them to use Quotific. So we built that now.
Excellent. And you took your time to build the product, right? So you did not rush into it. How has that helped you to build a better product?
Yeah, we've been a SaaS company for 13, 14 years now. And, anytime we rush into a product, build the coolest thing, it doesn't really have staying power, right? So we've learned that over and over again. So this time we said, okay, let's take a slow approach. Even though it's slow, the market will be there. E-commerce is growing, especially B2B e-commerce is growing. So we don't have a rush, but at least let's understand what the problems our customers are trying to solve instead of rushing and building everything they need, build only the things they told us they need. So that has helped us, and we want as many head nods on the calls as possible on our sales call, so that we're building the right vision. And it's easily, if we guess and go the wrong direction, yes, we can course correct, but it just takes longer. So we want to avoid that.
And was there a specific moment when you felt the product was finally ready to be talked about more openly again?
In initial version, when we first talked, we had a very basic version of Quotific. So, we were only having a few customers use it just on purpose, because we knew we lacked that customer tiered pricing and the company locations capabilities. So we finished that now. We've actually added that and it has been beta tested pretty well. We recently learned that Shopify has enabled some of these features even on the lower plans, right? Shopify Plus or B2B was the one that had these advanced features, but now even the advanced growth and other plans of Shopify have that. So I thought that it's a perfect time, right? So we just finished our upgrade of their tool, and then Shopify is also making it easier. So we're growing our market essentially. So I thought this would be a perfect time to talk.
Excellent. So now, since you've done CPQ for a number of years, what excites you the most about it at this time?
The Shopify creating those, lower tiers, having access to the B2B features is exciting, because now more businesses can access that. And businesses do need to get online, B2B businesses. Some of them are still, I'm surprised, like some of them still don't want to do. They feel like e-commerce is a very small part of their business, so they don't want to invest in it. But I think we're going to see a tipping point soon of that, because a modern buyer, they want as much information as possible online. They're on their phones all day, every day. All of us are, and we want to get that information as quickly as possible. So if it's not online, we're not going to bother calling or visiting that place. So it's an exciting time, because we can see once that tipping point is reached of that insight, then we're going to have much more businesses online, and I'm waiting for that wave. I'm excited.
And from your point of view, how is the CPQ market looking right now anyway? So how would you describe it?
It seems like it's looking strong. I mean, some of the more general CPQs, I see more and more of them appear. And I think they're seeing this too. Like online, people want to be able to check out and pay right away. So, even though even it's a quote, right? So payment platforms are also becoming more powerful and adding those features so that the time from quoting to paying is as short as possible. So it feels like it's still a strong market.
Very good. Then let's talk about Quotific, right? So we mentioned our 2023 discussion a couple of times. I'm pretty sure every listener knows exactly what we're talking about, right? So I think it would be helpful if you would quickly explain what Quotific does and what the biggest capabilities are that you have added since our last discussion.
So the way Quotific works is that it can work directly with your Shopify store, and you're able to request a quote from your store because more and more B2B businesses are online and they have expensive products to sell. Also, B2C buyers are also there. For example, if you're trying to buy a sofa that's expensive, you want to talk to somebody, so you want to request a quote. And with HubSpot, so Quotific can work standalone with Shopify, or it can also integrate with HubSpot. On the HubSpot side, sales reps want to stay in HubSpot all day, every day. The sales managers don't want them to be going into a second platform to, like in Shopify, make the draft order or quote and then push it into HubSpot, or vice versa. They want just a single pane of glass or tab as a common. So with HubSpot's Quotific's HubSpot integration, you're able to stay in HubSpot and create those quotes directly without leaving HubSpot. So essentially, they turn into draft orders in Shopify, and they're able to check out through Shopify. So that creates a single system where we cover the entire customer journey, right? So it's from the requested quote to a deal being created in HubSpot, and then if you want to edit the quote, you don't have to leave HubSpot to edit it. You can do it right within HubSpot, or if you use a standalone with Shopify, you can edit it in Unific's own interface.
Interesting. Very good. So then let's go on. So you mentioned yourself, you're pretty closely tied to HubSpot. What practical advantages does this have for your customers beside what you already mentioned?
Since HubSpot is a great tool to take the entire customer journey, right? All the way from did they click my ad? Did they, where did they come from? Right? You can do all that reporting all the way to closing the deal and then creating an order in Shopify and then pushing it to HubSpot for fulfillment. You can also manage fulfillment through HubSpot if you wanted to. Because it covers the entire customer journey, we could not hope as a small company to cover the entire customer journey, especially for sales reps and sales managers who want to know what's working, what's not working. We're handling one piece of it, one important piece of it, where we are making that Shopify HubSpot process easier, but it's not all of it. And so our customers are trying to solve a bigger problem than the specific one we're trying to solve. We're just an important part of it. So I think having HubSpot, a strong partnership there, helps both platforms. Us, because we can, like I said, the entire customer journey, manage it and help our customers increase their close rates, average order value, lifetime value. But HubSpot itself can gain access to the Shopify ecosystem, but also other shopping carts we support to then make sure those customers are happy. So it's a win-win in both cases.
Excellent, but I also understand that you're trying to get off the HubSpot platform, right? So that's where I mentioned the Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamic, and was wondering how far along are you on this journey to move off the HubSpot platform? So you're still available on HubSpot, but also on other platforms.
Yeah. I guess going off the platform is not something we're trying to do. It's more about how can we get closer to HubSpot, and they've just added so many great features. Recently they added forecasting, right? Forecasting of the deals, and how does that match the deal stages, opportunity stages? So we've just gotten more and more deeper into HubSpot and made that better. On the Salesforce side and Dynamics, we haven't dug too much into it. We want to make it so that Unific is not really pushing you toward any platform. We're trying to solve, if you're trying to solve a specific problem, then this platform makes sense, or versus that platform makes more sense, right? So we want to be agnostic as much as we can, but we're starting with HubSpot just because we've been in that ecosystem for a long time. We know the platform really well and what and how customers use it. Because I'm on like 3 or 4 sales calls every single week and have been for the last 8 years. So I have a lot of insight into what people are looking for with HubSpot. I don't have the same background with Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. That doesn't mean I can't, but we just haven't targeted that.
Got it, got it. Now, back in 2024, you said the product still had a couple of important gaps, including quote creation from HubSpot and support for customer-specific price lists. Which gaps get mattered most for you to close in that time?
Yeah, customer specific price lists was a big one that many of our customers were asking about because customer would come, they say, well, we really like the quoting aspect, and our sales reps don't have to go to Shopify to create the draft order. We want them to stay, but can you do price lists? So our answer was no, and we said we are building it. So last year we did invest in that and built that whole layer, as well as inventory, being able to see inventory based on location. And luckily we, build it after Shopify, release those features. So we're on the modern Shopify. We don't have to do a kind of migration or anything. You're getting the latest that Shopify has. And so we've kept up with that as well. We had to add product search. So we had a customer who had 45,000 SKUs, and the product search just wasn't loading quick enough. So we quickly added some scalable product searching capability so that we could download those products quickly and then also show them as quickly as possible.
Very cool. Also, one question, so for listeners to understand how important the Shopify environment is for you, right? So what percentage of your customer is also using a Shopify solution?
Yeah, so in terms of Unific, so Unific is a customer experience platform for e-commerce businesses. So we support Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, WooCommerce. For CPQ, we focus only on Shopify because we made the mistake in the past of adding too many platforms at once, and then none of them were as good as we wanted right away. We had to wait longer to make them all work the same. So this time we decided to just focus on, at least for CPQ, focus on Shopify. So, but if we took all of our products, I would say Shopify would be 50 to 60% of our customer base.
Excellent, very good. And I go back to another thing we had in a previous discussion, right? And that is, you said that you think customers are more problem focused than they are cost focused, right? So, which I thought was interesting. And then I was wondering, okay, what problem tends to create the strongest buying urgency for your product based on all the customer discussions that you have? What's the biggest reason for them to buy your solution?
Time savings and fragmentation. So because if quoting is fragmented across different platforms, they have to go. Their sales reps are in HubSpot, then they have to go to Shopify to duplicate the actual deal and then recreate it as a draft order, and then they have to send the checkout link through Shopify for them to close it, or send it as a quote through HubSpot. Again, copying, pasting the line items. That creates such a obstacle to scaling the sales team that they don't want to do it, right? So they just don't want to do the scale. They don't want to scale or can't scale. But the fact is their sales managers are asking, or their leaders are asking the sales managers, we need to scale the team. How do we do that? This is the tech stack. This is what you got. So how do you do that? So these sales managers are just really struggling to figure that out. And so we are trying to find them and understand, like, okay, this is how the flow should work. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, as little clicks as possible.
Excellent. And I think also when we talked before, you were competing more with lightweight quoting tools, much more than with classic CPQ vendors. I was wondering, has anything changed on that, or you see now competition that you didn't see before?
Not much has changed. I think it's similar to what we've seen. The more classic CPQ are really higher end of the market enterprise type of plays. And we're okay with that. Since e-commerce is such a diverse, a lot of, so Shopify has targeted historically smaller businesses, B2B, smaller B2B, and then they had the plus tier, which is the, more enterprise friendly or pricing that was more enterprisey. But because Shopify has had that whole range of customers, ours also look the same, right? But we haven't had to run into some of those higher end enterprise CPQ tools. But and actually, the recent news with Shopify not allowing these B2B tools for those lower end customers, I think will also keep us in that range of small business to mid market. So not really running into those higher enterprise level CPQs.
If your company is evaluating CPQ and you're not sure which vendors are actually worth your time, try the free Novo CPQ Briefing Match app. You answer a few questions about your business and requirements, and it gives you a more focused starting shortlist of relevant CPQ solutions. It's meant to save time, reduce noise, and make early CPQ research a lot easier. Go to novocpq.com and click on the CPQ podcast page to find it. And from your point of view, from what the customers experience, where do you think do deals most often get stuck in the process today? Is that when they're trying to create a quote, when they're looking for approvals, pricing is too complex, or getting a quote to converting that to paid order? Where do they get stuck most often?
Pricing, because see, the pricing might be in their ERP or in a spreadsheet somewhere or somebody's mind. You have to ask them, and so it creates a obstacle of that sales rep having to go in different places just to get the pricing. And then approvals also at the after the quote is made is a challenge too. But I think the main thing is the fragmentation, right? So you have to go through all these different systems to actually get a quote together. So if we can shorten that, reduce the fragmentation, and let's just say, hey, we're I know that small businesses are going to go to Shopify because it has made a very compelling case for B2B. And they will start using that. So then we are also going to start, we focused on Shopify. We made that decision already. So I think it's going to be solving that fragmentation issue. Now our app will then make it even simpler because then we're going to remove some of the complexities of that quoting process, because Shopify itself can be complex too if you go into the Shopify admin. So let's make our system as customizable as possible.
Got it. So also then to be clear, so for you going forward, it's more important to have a deeper Shopify integration than broadening your CPQ capabilities for a wider audience, correct?
I would agree with that. Shopify is moving very quickly. It's difficult to keep up with Shopify. And so we're trying our best. So yeah, I agree with you.
Excellent. Then let's go ahead. I was wondering if you have learned anything from your customers that surprised you, from your Quotific customers, obviously, right? So once they started using your product and in live selling situations, was there anything that surprised you when they came back and told you about it?
I think what's surprising is how long it takes for their sales reps to understand the process, because change is hard and you're stuck in your ways. So it's difficult to convince that, hey, we've actually removed 2 or 3 steps here, instead of understanding that they actually add 2 or 3 steps because they don't fully understand the process. So we have to get much better as Unific at defining the user experience, and not just defining it, but also talking about it and creating videos and content so that people understand, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be used. And we can try as much as possible to drive them like in a particular workflow. But the way they use HubSpot, they've been using it for years, and so they don't want to change it. And so how can we as an organization get closer to how they work today already, but still provide some of the benefits of reducing the steps necessary for in the user experience. So an example I'll give is the way Quotific works is you're able to stay in HubSpot. A deal could be created automatically, and a company and contact would be associated. And then to add a line item, you want to select a Shopify line item. So we actually have a draft order button in HubSpot, which will pop up a screen and it will let you actually build the draft order directly through APIs to add the products from Shopify directly to your quote. And that becomes a draft order, and then that deal is updated later so that it has the line item from Shopify directly. But our current customers, if they've been using HubSpot a lot, they're used to the workflow of adding the line item directly on the deal in HubSpot. And so they do it that way, but it creates a problem because the products in Shopify, very complex product object and powerful. HubSpot's product object is not built for e-commerce, so it's not as powerful, right? It doesn't have inventory and things like that. So trying to do it, if they add the line item in HubSpot to the deal, it's kind of going backwards from what we designed. So trying to undo that has been surprising, like and I guess not surprising. Human memory is hard to break.
That's an excellent point, right? So change management, I think it's always underestimated, but very important to get that
Mhm.
right so that the adoption of the tool goes up, right? So because that's
Yeah.
the goal. Now, what from your point of view is the most important step for your next stage of growth, right? So what do you want to do? So you want to do, I have an idea, better demos, stronger website messaging, different website. You want to have more pricing features where just give our listeners an idea where the solution is trending.
We get feature requests all the time. Do you have this yet, or do you have that yet? And it's hard to, which one should we build next, right? It's always a challenging piece. I would say that as much as possible, we're trying to make it easy for sales reps. Can they get from request a quote to an order, completed order, as quickly as possible, and remove all the obstacles they have to jump all these different platforms to find the pricing and do all the simple things, or difficult things made simple. So, so we are, as far as awareness is something we are working on of this solution, because we know the problems there. We've been talking about it, building products for almost 4 years, I guess 5 years now, for this particular uh, problem. And we want to find ways to talk more about it, because that tipping point, right? How can you make that tipping point happen of these B2B businesses getting online? Shopify is working hard at that. I think some other businesses, BigCommerce also is. But how can we make that come up faster and sooner?
Excellent. Now tell me, what do you think? What's one thing that you think the market still misunderstands about e-commerce oriented CPQ solution like Quotific?
That's a great question. I think that they sometimes make it harder than it is. The APIs are really powerful and still being developed. They change all the time. But it once the data is in Shopify, for example, then it is fairly simple to start to take a systemized approach to your sales process. Because of tools like HubSpot that we're integrating into the process, and then Unific itself can do a lot even if you don't have HubSpot. So we want to make it as simple as possible, like I said, to create those tools, get that approval, and get that order, shorten the time between request a quote and completed order. And I think brands simply think it's too hard or too expensive to get that done. And I think that's a misconception.
Excellent. I hope you could clarify that a little bit with everyone. So now, I didn't ask at the beginning who is an ideal customer for your product, but I'm asking you right now, and I'm looking especially still the industries, the customer size, and the region that you focus on. What should interested customers or someone who's interested in your solution know about that?
I think I'll just say, high ticket B2C e-commerce is one, and then B2B e-commerce or wholesale would be another type of customer that's important for us. I think region-wise, it's all over the world. I mean, wherever Shopify works.
Yeah. And you already said, right, so it's SMB focused more than anything else. Excellent. Now, one thing I also ask everyone these days is what AI functionality you have, right? So lots of vendors on the CPQ side play around with or play around is not the right thing, develop AI capabilities. What do you have to say about AI being used in Quotific?
The aspect of we haven't talked much about it, but the customer experience management part of it of Unific, our platform. Quotific is a single tool of our platform. It's not all of it. We have other features and products that help you understand who your customer is, right? Which segment does this customer? Are they a big spender? Are they a champion? And are they churning, right? So if they're churning and they're a champion, then there's a problem here. Like if you lose a few of those champions, then you may lose a chunk of revenue. So we don't want to do that. So we want to tell you who they are, right? And what in HubSpot, or we could within Unific, you could see that as well, and try to reach out and try to get a deal or get at least a touch with that sales rep to try to save them. Or if they're a big spender and they're an active big spender, which means they're spending a lot and they're also active, they're ordering more often, then in that case, we should ask them for a review or a video testimonial, something that would bring that, help us get more customers like them. That tool, Dynamic Segments, is one of our AI tools that helps you segment your customer base automatically based on buying behavior. And then part recommendations is something that also that we offer. And if you're making a quote, can we recommend a product you should add to that quote? So that should increase your average order value. And the other product Dynamic Segments helps you increase the lifetime value.
Now, how much adoption do you see of these AI features in your customer base, and where do you think this will go? If you could give us your best guess for how that looks like in a year based on what you hear today, what would you say? So, what is the adoption? Where will it go?
I can't say on the adoption part, but I think where it'll go is, everybody's trying to figure out what is AI, how does that apply to my workflow, and I think that there'll be a lot of point solutions that can do AI, but have they thought of through the entire workflow of how a salesperson in the context of CPQ work, what problems do they need to solve, and can AI, at what entry point can AI come in and help solve that problem more quickly or make it better, easier for the customer, right? So it's a sales rep's really their main job is to help the customer. So what can AI provide to help the customer, right? And get them a better customer experience, buying experience, and how does it affect the entire customer journey, right?
But tell me, especially from a Quotific, so from a CPQ point of view, where you see the biggest opportunities there.
CPQ, I think part recommendations is a good one because if a sales rep is adding a certain product to cart to the quote, then can we recommend a product that's related that possibly could be increase the value of the quote itself.
Got it. And I guess we could keep talking here for an hour. We don't have the time, so we're getting to the end of this episode. Hence my question, what's a good opportunity for interested listeners to potentially get in contact with you to learn more about Unific and or Quotific?
Yeah, our website, www.unific.com, unific.com, is a great place to get in touch with us. And we have a chat bot or chat that's actually manned by a person, not a bot. You can talk with us there. I'm also on LinkedIn as under my name, and I think that's it.
And as always, we will have this information in the show notes. Parag, thank you very much for making time for the CPQ podcast today.
Thank you, Frank.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.